Welcome back to the channel. Today I am headed up to Fort Collins to get the Charger front subframe. So I had Hayden weld it since I do not have a TIG welder anymore. I had a Miller TIG, but then HTP said they were going to, I think it's HTP, said they were going to start working with me and that they were going to send me a TIG welder. So I sold my Miller and then the TIG welder never came. I asked them what was going on and they're like, well, we're not going to send you one because we don't need any more advertising for it. I was like, great. So I have been looking for a TIG welder. I need to find something so I can start being able to finally fabricate and weld my own stuff again. But Hayden does a really good job. He's welded a bunch of other stuff for me. I trust him. So we're headed up to Denver to finally get the Charger front subframe. I cannot wait till all the fabrication stuff is done with this car and I can just start bolting stuff in. It's getting very, very close. The last thing I have to do is the front lower control arms, and I'm waiting for a bushing from, or 2 bushings from QA1 because I forgot that I have to make the coilover mount. Got up to Fort Collins and pulled apart the upper piece of the subframe. Hayden's gonna finish welding a few more things on it that we couldn't get to inside the fixture. So these upper mounts right here, this mount for the power steering wiring, and then I'm gonna have him add a few little tabs so it'll give it a little bit more rigidity, especially back here. I think that'll work really well. Probably go on this side since this is the bottom and that's the top, just for you know, stuff like that. So let's get all this done and then we can put it back in the truck and get it ready for powder coat. Hayden just finished welding up the front subframe and I must say it's pretty beefy. Looks good though.
Yeah, it is a solid unit right there for sure.
From all the stuff you weld, I mean, it's always good. Can't wait to put this finally in the car after we get it powder coated, but there's still a long way to go. You still have some control arms to weld up, but oh, yeah, I think that's the last thing.
That'd be cool. That'd be exciting.
Then maybe next time I could drive this thing up here instead of hauling all this stuff in my truck.
Go whip some donuts in the cul-de-sac over here.
Yeah, do some hood rat things.
I'd be down for that. That sounds like fun.
But I'm gonna head back home. Thanks Hayden for welding this up. And I mean, I'll see you next weekend.
Yes, sir.
Got back to the junkyard, decided to test fit the front differential one more time just to make sure there wasn't gonna be any interference issues. And she is good to go. She fits in there perfectly. Really, really, really nice. So one thing I need to do is get a new front differential. So this diff was out of the wrecked Trackhawk that caught on fire, and it was just a really good mock-up diff. You can see there's damage here. I think that's a crack there. I could rebuild this thing and use it, but I'd rather just have a brand new diff. I'm also buying a brand new steering rack, but I need to modify the steering rack. So the lowest part of the car with the differential in there is the subframe, which is really nice, and the skid plate, I'm probably gonna end up making it out of titanium and just have it really clean underneath, but we'll worry about that later on because the plastic one will still bolt up. But when I bolt the steering rack in there, that motor for the electronic assist steering hangs down 6 inches, which is not good at all because the Trackhawks, the Durango Hellcats, you know, the base models, all of them use the same electric steering rack. They are a lot higher off the ground and that sits way higher up in the subframe. So I've really compacted everything in this as compact as you can go. So that I'm gonna have to get a new steering rack and modify it. The plan to modify it is I'm going to, hopefully this works, I'm really hoping it does, cut it across this plane right here and then spin this whole assembly up. But I'm also going to have this mount right here gonna have to cut that off somehow. So it's gonna be very interesting getting this to work correctly, because there's a lot of stuff to actually do on this, which is I almost need to make a whole separate billet piece for this end, just so when I rotate that, it's in the proper place. And then I'm getting into like this whole rabbit hole situation where I don't want to make this too difficult, but I also want this to work. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to keep test fitting some stuff, make sure that this fits in the car perfectly. We have, like I said before, this mount is for the wiring for the electric power steering rack, and then we have the engine mount brackets, which I have the engine mounts already done up here, and these ones are really nice, as you can see, and they just slip right in. Well, they usually slip right in. Yeah, they slip. Oh, maybe it's side to side. They slip right in. Bam, we have nice clean engine brackets. So let's figure this whole steering rack situation out. Ended up disassembling the burnt Trackhawk electric power steering rack. Then I remembered I had the wrecked Durango electric power steering rack, which this might actually work. So this housing is cracked right there. This shaft right here is bent because it ripped the steering shaft out because it was hit pretty hard in the front. But there wasn't really much suspension damage. So as long as this piece right here inside it's not bent, I think these tie rods and ends aren't bent. I'll probably end up getting new ones anyway. I might be able to get this to work. I also had, I'm pretty sure that thing had like 30,000 miles. It had a good electric assist motor, which is the biggest cost of these power steering racks. So they're like $1,400, 14 to 15. I think maybe they're $1,800. They're pretty expensive. So it has all the wiring, has all the goodies in it. What I might end up doing, which I didn't really want to do, I just wanted to end up bolting a Trackhawk power steering rack in here and calling it a day. But at the end of the day, this module, this electric assist motor, would hang down way too far. As you can see right here, it looks like it'd be perfect, but then this hangs down quite a ways further, as you can see right here. So this right here is this edge right there, and as you can see, it's like maybe another inch. Yeah, like another inch or so. So unfortunately, I don't want it to hang down an inch, because that's pretty much all you'd see from the bottom of the car when you're looking from the front of it, and it would just really bother me. Plus, if I ever bottomed the car out, it would, this is all aluminum and this is expensive, it would just rip it right off. So as you can see, the front differential, it doesn't sit any lower than the splash shield. So you can see the splash shield mounts here, the back bar is touching, and we're pretty much good to go. But like I said before, I didn't want to do this, but it might be the same cost as buying a rack, then having to modify it, and then going from there. So what I might end up doing, I need to pull this rack the rest of the way apart. I'm going to pull the tie rods off, and then I'm going to pull the steering shaft out, and then I'm going to just pull everything out of it, because I want to figure out if I could make a housing. So what I'm going to end up doing is either mount this electric assist motor here, as you can see, or back here, which would really be nice if I could tuck it up right there. Maybe angle it a little bit so I can get that bolt. Like if I angled it like that, I could still get the bolt out. It wouldn't interfere with that shaft, and then we could go from there. But since I have to machine something, it's all going to be billet. Or I can make it so it's like a slip tube, like the quick racks, where this tube is just actually a tube, and then it screws in to the ends. This might actually help me, because that shaft kind of technically isn't at the correct angle. Nothing's really at the correct angle for the charger. The shaft comes out over here, comes out like this. I could push it down a little bit more, which would help me out tremendously, as long as I'm not, interfering with this axle. And then it'd be a lot easier to make the steering shaft go together, and it would be a lot nicer because everything would be tucked up. If I could get it exactly like that, where it's nice and tucked up, it's not touching the diff, nothing's really interfering with each other, there's quite a bit of room from the factory. So I think if it's, since I've already stuffed so much stuff really close together, this wouldn't be that big of a deal. So I'm now back home, and there are a few things I want to talk about with the Charger before I end the video. So the front subframe is very, very close. It's all welded up, and all I really need to do is mess with the power steering rack, which is giving me kind of a big headache. Also, the lower control arms, it'll be in another video. I'm gonna have to make those out of billet. So when I make the lower control arms out of billet, I'll have the knuckles machined out of billet as well. So it's just taking way longer. I'm having to make more and more parts than I thought I was gonna have to make, which is very, very unfortunate. I'm still gonna make this car all-wheel drive, but I'm gonna do something I should have done a year and a half ago. So for now, the Charger is non-drivable, which really pains me. It's been a beautiful car. It's been sitting here and it hasn't been driven. You know, it doesn't have any, you know, it doesn't have an engine, it doesn't have a tranny. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the junkyard tomorrow. I'm going to bolt in the subframe, bolt in the block, bolt in the transmission, the Trackhawk transmission, and I need to weld in the other mount for that cross member I made for the all-wheel drive transmission. Then, once that's welded, I can finish undercoating the rest of the car. Then I could go in, and what the plan is I'm just going to end up, it kind of pains me. I'm going to take everything out of the Challenger, probably not everything because I have quite a bit of parts, but I'm going to take the drivetrain out of the Challenger and most of the electronics, and we're going to swap them temporarily into the Charger just so the Charger runs and drives. It's one of those things where I don't have the time. I just thought about this, you know, went to pick up the subframe and got into this situation where I'm seeing that it's going to take another, you know, 4 to 6 months to get all this stuff machined. I have to send it off, they have to make it. I've been waiting on misalignment spacers. Subscribers helping me out with that now though, so hopefully all the controller misalignment spacers come, and that's okay. But I just want to be able to actually drive this car on the street, and then, you know, once I get the all-wheel drive stuff, I can then swap everything back into the Challenger, and I'll probably do some upgrades while I'm in there to the Challengers. Or there is another option. Instead of taking all of the stuff out of the Challenger, I could buy, what I wanted to do was buy a 2021 red-eye Charger from the auction with the correct interior color that I wanted, because I still needed to get the interior since I haven't been able to find it. But the prices of the red eyes and everything has gone up really, really crazy lately. So what I could do to be able to, you know, because I have so much, you know, so much money out there and so much stuff going on. I have everything, you know, I've ordered a bunch of parts for the Durango, and as they come in, my car gets charged for that. And, you know, that's tens of thousands of dollars. And then I have, you know, other stuff with the Charger that I'm paying for, and other stuff with other stuff, and just a lot of stuff's going on. So what I could do is I could do a giveaway on the Challenger Hellcat. I would need 1,000 people. I would do it as a, you know, a per spot giveaway. So there would be 1,000 spots at $100 a spot, and it wouldn't be like one of those giveaways like 80-80 where you have millions of people and they have millions of spots. It'd be a lot better odds. So I technically would have to do this as like a sort of raffle thing, but it couldn't technically be a raffle just because the car's worth so much. So if you guys are interested in that, I could set up something in my Patreon as like $100 spot, and then, you know, I need 1,000 people. So that's a very good option. And then, you know, I'd be able to recoup some money from the Challenger, recoup some money from a bunch of stuff, and then I could instantly go and get a red eye so I can get the charger up and going. Or I could just, you know, pull everything out of this. I'm not sure what you guys think. If there's 1,000 of you that think it's a good idea and you're ready to go, I mean, $100 a spot for the chance to win a 2018 Hellcat with just about to be 10,000 miles isn't a bad deal. So in the comments, or just go to my Patreon, let me know what you guys think. And I'm gonna end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.